What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Now, before we jump in to this what if Deku was transported to danmachi part 10, I want to start off by stating that I have a second channel now. It's gaming content. So if you guys could go over there and go subscribe, that would be amazing. Now, see, I got a challenge for you all today, okay? The challenge is simple. If you guys can get my channel to 150 by next week Monday, then let's make it Sunday. By next week Sunday at 10 p.m. my time, I will post double uploads all next week. So if you guys can go ahead and do that, you guys will get double uploads on this channel all next week. I think y'all would love that, and if that's the case, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Okay, now before we jump into this what if, one more thing, I want to thank Val's Tracks for joining the Discord, and you guys should go join the Discord too, because on my gaming channel, I'm planning on posting Among Us videos where I play with fans in the Discord. So if you guys think that would be fun and you guys would enjoy to do that, go ahead and join the Discord. Okay, now let's jump straight into this what if. Izuku woke up the next day. He remembered the events at Monster Freya and was kind of still freaked out how lucky Bell had been with that knife catch. Eventually, Izuku met up with Aiz and went to go help train Bell. See, Izuku was very well adapted to training with Bell at this point, almost seeming to grow from it himself rather than it just being a growing experience for Bell. And Aiz also started to grow a little bit from Izuku and Bell's and hers training experience together. This made the whole entire event for all of them really fun. Most of them all figured that this would be a pretty fun experience going onwards. Eventually, Izuku ended up asking Bell how he felt about it, how he felt about training. Bell said that he felt really good about training. He figured that constantly training, well, would actually help him out a lot more than what it was currently. Izuku thought it was pretty amazing. And, well, thought it was cool. But Izuku also then asked that if he was so dead set on believing his training was good, then what's going to happen afterwards? Well, Bell thought about it very precariously, because he himself didn't know what he planned to do. He then ended up coming up with the conclusion that his plan, in quotation marks because he had a lack of one, was to go ahead and attempt to start training solo. This confused Bell and Aiz, wondering why he had decided to go ahead and train solo. Eventually, Bell ended up stating he had decided to train solo mainly because he didn't want to stay an encumbrance on Aiz and Deku, much to Aiz and Deku's dismay for different reasons. Aiz thought Aiz thought Bell was a very precarious character, and she liked Bell's company, not nearly as much as Izuku's, but she still did enjoy the young adventurer boy. And Izuku was kind of saddened by this because he thought that he was being maybe kind of overbearing on Bell, and that's why Bell decided to leave and stop training with him, even though Bell had stated the exact opposite reason earlier. Eventually, Izuku understood that Bell just needed space to grow on his own. And after getting Aiz to accept his decision, allowed Bell to go start training on his own. Aiz wasn't too upset about this because she got to spend more private time with Izuku, while Izuku really didn't care. But there was one issue that had corresponded that neither of these two adventurers had known about. there was a woman sitting in a room. There was a man standing next to her. She seemed to be able to look at them even though they were nowhere near her. This woman's name was Freya. Now, Freya was watching Belle when suddenly Izuku had shown up. After looking at Izuku's soul, she could see something very precarious was there. Rather than having one soul, he seemed to have 7, and his soul seemed to be way stronger than any other soul she had previously seen in the past. Now this confused Freya, for a multitude of reasons, of course, but the main thing that confused her was the fact that Izuku seemed to be relatively unaware of this fact. Belle got a pass, because Belle was pretty idiotic, but through Freya's observations, she noticed that Izuku was different. He was very intelligent in his actions and seemed to have a very strong will. This made her be kind of interested in the young boy. She eventually decided to ask Otter to go ahead and do a reconnaissance on Izuku, which Otter agreed to with little to no resistance from either party. He already knew Freya had the tendency to become enthralled, for lack of a better word, with people that seemed to have a strong soul. So if Freya decided that this boy was important enough for her to send him to go watch over, that means this boy must be pretty well off. At least that's what Otter thought. He didn't notice that this boy was completely different than any other, well, human being that was in his life at the current moment. Don't get me wrong, some gods had the ability to, well, foster and hold mortal souls, but it was almost unheard of to see a mortal boy, nonetheless, hold up to 9 souls, at least what Freya could see inside of him. Seems like each soul had a unique color tinge to it, almost like each soul was different and not unified under one theme, except for 3 of them that were all unified under one soul. Izuku, still blissfully unaware of the situation that was revolving with the Feckle goddess in the background, felt a shiver down his spine, which Izuku thought was very weird. He has a natural tendency to understand certain things, so when he felt that shiver down his spine, Izuku figured that there was an issue that he was not yet aware of, figuring it was probably something to do with Hephaestus and his armor, rather than figuring it was something to do with a random goddess peeping in on his little time he gets to spend with eyes alone, which not really seemed to be shortening over the current time frame, but doesn't seem to be widening either. Even though the issue really didn't upset Izuku nearly as much as he thought it did, it still lingered in the back of his head as a constant reminder that him and Az still were only friends. Even though Izuku wasn't 100% down with what he was feeling, he still understood that this wasn't a feeling of mutual relationship and friendship. It was something different, something more demanding of him, something that demanded him to work harder and harder to get Aiza's attention, which Izuku himself really couldn't understand as much. Then again, Izuku was never really the one to understand romance at all. Eventually, Izuku and Aiz both went down into dungeon and started training. They trained pretty precariously now. They almost constantly trained, with almost no stop. They trained mainly just to make sure that they could not only foster their own strength, but each other's. Aiz to hopefully keep up with Deku, and Deku to hopefully keep up with Aiz. Eventually, Aiz and Deku both kept training to an absurd point. Meanwhile, during this time, Ganesh decided to hold a party for all gods and goddesses to celebrate Monster Freya's ending. Actually, I'm pretty sure this was hosted prior to Monster Freya, but it's hosted afterwards in this one. Why? Because I said so. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm pretty sure it was hosted before, but now that I reminded myself of it, I decided to host it after. Yep, intelligence, level 100. But, he decided to host a party. Of course, Hestia was there, as well as Loki, and Freya as well. Freya saw Loki and Hestia arguing and remembered how their two children actually got along pretty well. Loki looked down at the small, petite goddess in front of her and made the quite brash remark of "Celtits" directly to her face. This obviously did not bode well with Hestia, as she decided to rebuttal Loki's term with washing board, as they both glared at each other pretty menacingly. Then Loki said, "Your little white rabbit wouldn't be saved unless if my green boy saved him." "Oh, you mean Izuku?" "Yeah, he's actually currently training Belle." "Yeah, I know, him and Eyes both." "Eyes again, what's with that girl?" "What do you mean, what's with that girl?" "It's nothing, it's just that..." "Whatever, doesn't matter," Hestia stated. Loki was very confused on Hestia's statement. She didn't understand what she had meant by it. It was very obvious that there was no correlation between her and, well, her and Eyes, so Loki didn't understand her statement at all. Eventually, Loki gave in and stormed off in a quite angered way when Freya showed up and decided to start talking afterwards. Eventually, Izuku and Eyes finished training. They both had a pretty decent time at it and decided to go stop to eat some dinner. They showed up at the House of Fertility, mainly because Izuku was, well, quite excited to go ahead and talk to some of the people there. He remembered there being an elf girl, which still confused Deku about the different races, and he didn't know how to really talk with them in the most accurate way without causing any massive issues. Mainly because Izuku knew that talking with them could, well, not cause issues, but mainly could definitely hurt his ability in conversing with different species, which most other people wouldn't find an issue in because they had grown up around personnel of different races for a pretty long time. But to Izuku, it was like a different, well, bag of beans, you know? It's a different bag of issues there. For Izuku, it comes an issue of, well, am I actually discussing the proper topics I should be discussing with this other person? Or am I just arguing with them? So, Izuku really didn't understand how to speak with different races. Eventually, though, after him and Eyes enjoyed a nice spaghetti dinner, decided to head back home and chill. Izuku had decided to buy a house with all of his earnings as an adventurer. The house he decided to buy was a pretty nice looking one. Wasn't too big, but wasn't too small, and, well, relatively, it helped out a lot. Eventually, Izuku drifted off to sleep. And that's where I'm going to leave this off, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Once again, please do go check out my other channel to go hit the subscribe button over there, mainly just because if you guys do that, then you guys get double videos all next week. Isn't that awesome? And until next time, guys, goodbye.